Hey, Baruch Levi B here from Soul Centered. Thanks for tuning in. This is an important conversation. I wrote a blog and now I'm doing a video about what to do or not do before you leave your job, your work environment, your profession even, maybe your spouse. There's 1,000 different things that we leave behind. The question is, do we do it the right way, in a way that leads to more meaning, greater purpose, and ultimately a good life and a long life? Let me first tell you how not to do it. Now, just fair warning, this involves a tough topic of suicide, but nonetheless, a very important conversation. It's a story about a man named Shelley. Shelley was in midlife, late 40s, oftentimes where I'm at in my life and where I work with people, mid 40s to onwards, call it the afternoon of life. It's a time of what I call life's T's. They are T in the roads, right, of a transition, a test, a trial, trauma, tragedy. We have these all throughout life, but in the afternoon of life, you just can't avoid them anymore, and you don't want to avoid them unless you're like Shelley. Shelley didn't navigate the T's consciously. He became unconscious. He was reacting to his life, not responding. And so slowly and methodically, one reaction after another, he just started to throw away what was a perfectly good, wonderful life, a great business, a loving marriage, 3 great kids, community, friends, family, and one by one he let them go and he walked away. He walked away from his business, he walked away from his marriage, he walked away from his community, and in the end, he walked away from his life, taking his life. This, however, is no fictional story. This is my father's story, at least part of his story. My father, Shelley Perlman, took his life in 2006. My grandmother took her life around the same time, chronologically, 20 years prior to him. So I know a thing or two about coming to life's crisis crossroads, these T's, and doing it the wrong way, not doing it all, and allowing ourselves to become victims to our circumstances. But there's another way and a better way, and it's the way I try and live my life, and certainly the way I guide people in their lives. I'm a logotherapist, a meaning-centered psychotherapist. I guide people through these T's because the midlife crisis, if that's what you want to call it, is an opportunity. It's an invitation. Crisis means decision, right? To decide. Crisis, and to take back our power, not to give up our power when we come to one of these T's, when we come to a crisis in our life. Emergency can be a place from which we emerge, and that's ultimately what we have to do when we come to these. So how can we emerge? How can we transform a crisis into an awakening? Ultimately, by not leaving behind anything or anyone. Now, it doesn't mean you have to remain married or remain in your job. There are ways, however, to leave a marriage, to leave a job, to change your life, to move towards your dreams that ultimately is about transformation, is about moving towards, not running away from. And it may not seem like a big difference, but it makes all the difference in the world. It can even be, in the case of my dad, the difference of life and death. So let me give you some practical tools, if you will, that I've really drawn from Kabbalah, Jewish mysticism, and from logotherapy, from the work of Dr. Frankl. So there are 5 kind of core things that I help people do. There's more, but these are kind of the ones that came to me. And also, I've created a do-it-yourself multimedia program called Choose Your Own Way. Some of these are in there as well. Number 1 is this: start where you stand. We spend so much time in our lives looking for answers out there, looking for meaning in somebody else, in something else. If I just change my job, if I just change my partner, if I just change my circumstances, then I'll be happy, then I'll find meaning. But that's not the way it goes. We have to start where we stand, to take stock of what we have. So much of what my father was looking for, he had all along. He just never was able to look down at the grass that was green underneath his feet. Somehow it was always greener somewhere out there. Rule or tool number 1, start where you stand. Number 2, did you go all in? I mean, did you go all in? Because if it was worth getting into the relationship in the first place, if it was worth taking on this profession years ago, then it was worth something. It meant something to you. So often we get caught up in the 99% rule. I've talked about it before. I give 99% of myself to my partner. Why? Because she's only giving 98%, and I don't want to be, vulnerable and out there and giving when not getting it back in return. So I give 97, she gives 96, 95, 94. You can see how this goes. However, and it doesn't mean you don't get separated. It doesn't mean you get divorced. There's nothing wrong with divorce as long as it's the right divorce, right? The right time, for the right reasons, in the right way. Go all in. Get the marital counseling. Do your own self-work. Really examine the relationship that you're about to leave behind before you go recreating your problems somewhere else. The old Buddha saying, wherever you go, there you are. My father needed to start where he stood, needed to go all in his marriage, in his work, in his life, and I believe it would have been a different outcome. I believe he would have found what he was looking for. But one of the reasons why he couldn't is number 3. So we have start where you stand, go all in, whatever you're talking about, and then maybe you outgrow it and move on. Receive. Learn how to receive. The world around my dad said, you're a success. Shelley, you're a success. Business, wife, kids, community. The list went on and on. The problem was he didn't believe it. He couldn't receive it. One of the biggest challenges I see today is that we have a hard time receiving the accolades, the accomplishments, the achievements. How many people do I counsel who have achieved? They've climbed the ladder of success, but they don't feel successful because they don't believe what the world around them is saying. I have counseled so many people with numbers in the bank. It doesn't mean anything because there's always one decimal point away that they could move towards, and then they'll feel happy. Then they'll feel wealthy. Then they'll feel successful. Kabbalah. The word Kabbalah means to receive. It's the highest form of being. To receive the success, to receive the happiness, to receive another, and to receive yourself is a crucial part of this journey. So if you want to find the meaning and have the purpose and live that good life, then you have to start where you stand, to go all in, and to learn how to receive yourself and others and your success. 4, shift your gaze. You must put yourself at the center. It is not selfish to make time for yourself, to do this work, to learn how to receive, and then to receive. It does not make you weak. It is not better to give than receive. They're yin and yang. They need to hold each other in balance. Once you have put your mask on, right, in the airplane, what do they say to do? Put the mask on the person next to you. Get yourself at the center. Put yourself back together, and then go out to other. Fill yourself up and let it spill out to others, but move towards others. Dr. Frankl calls this SelfTranscendence. We are not here to self-actualize, to become the best version of ourselves. And if we are, we can only ironically get there through others, through relationships, through giving, through loving, through being in service. So you must take some of the pressure off of you, some of the focus off of you, and put it on to those around you, others who need you, causes you can contribute towards, people who are worse off than you, somebody or something where you can pour some love and energy into, and you will see a shift in your life when you start where you stand and you go all in and you learn to receive and you learn how to self-transcend. And lastly, remember this, you always have a choice. You do not get to choose your circumstances. Sometimes you do, but oftentimes and eventually you don't. Circumstances are always beyond our control. And if we are subject to them, if we are dependent upon them for our happiness to define our success, then we will never be successful. We will always be victims because we are powerless and we have no say in the changing winds and tides of life. However, as Dr. Frankl says, we have always the power, the ability to choose our attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose our own way. That's the power that you always have, that my dad had and he forgot that he has, and that we need to exercise when we are at the life tees. excuse me, when we are going through the crossroads, when we come to one of those moments, it doesn't have to be a crisis. If you follow these 5 fundamental ideas and steps, you can transform that crisis into an awakening, and you can move forward, whatever you decide, because you decided it, choosing meaning and purpose, and most of all, choosing life. Thank you. God bless. Take care. Shalom, salam, namaste. Peace.